When we start making AIs, like proper AIs, we are now fishing in a region of that space that that may never have had bodies before. It may have never been embodied before. And what we get from that is going to be extremely surprising. And the final thing just to mention on that is that because of this, because of the inputs from this Platonic space, some of the really interesting things that artificial constructs can do are not because of the algorithm. They're in spite of the algorithm. They are filling up the spaces in between. There's what the algorithm is forcing you to do, and then there's the other cool stuff it's doing, which is nowhere in the algorithm. And if that's true, and we think it's true even of very minimal systems, then this whole business of language models and AIs in general, watching the language part may be a total red herring, because the language is what we force them to do. The question is, what else are they doing that we are not good at noticing? And this is, this is something that we are, I think, as a kind of existential step for humanity is to become better at this, because we are not good at recognizing these things now.
You gotta tell me more about this behavior that is observable, that is unrelated to the explicitly stated goal of a particular algorithm. So you looked at a simple algorithm of sorting. Can you explain what was done?
Ability. And it turns out that every time we look and we take tools from behavioral science, so learning, different kinds of training, different kinds of models that are used in active inference and surprise minimization and perceptual multi-stability and visual illusions and all these kinds of interesting things, stress perception and memory, active memory reconstruction, all these interesting things. When we apply them outside the brain to other kinds of living systems, we find novel discoveries and novel capabilities, actually being able to get the material to do new things that nobody had ever found before. And precisely because I think that people didn't look at it from those perspectives, they assumed that it was a low level kind of thing. So when I say persuadability, I mean different types of approaches. Right. And we all know if you want to persuade your wind up clock to do something, you're not going to argue with it or make it feel guilty or anything. You're going to have to get in there with a wrench and you're going to have to, tune it up and do whatever. If you want to do that same thing to a cell or a thermostat or an animal or a human, you're going to be using other sets of tools that we've given other names to. And so that's now, of course, that spectrum, the important thing is that as you get to the right of that spectrum, as the agency of the system goes up, it is no longer just about persuading it to do things. It's a bidirectional relationship, what Richard Watson would call a mutual vulnerable knowing. So the idea is that on the right side of that spectrum, when systems reach the higher levels of agency, the idea is that you're willing to let that system persuade you of things as well. In molecular biology, you do things, hopefully the system does what you want to do, but you haven't changed. You're still exactly the way you came in. But on the right side of that spectrum, if you're having interactions with even cells, but certainly, dogs, other animals, maybe other creatures soon, you're not the same at the end of that interaction as you were going in. It's a mutual bidirectional relationship. So it's not just you persuading something else. It's not you pushing things. It's a mutual bidirectional set of persuasions, whether those are purely intellectual or of other kinds.
So in order to be effective at persuading an intelligent being, you yourself have to be persuadable. So the closer in intelligence you are to the thing you're trying to persuade,
a lot of thinking that I've done about when this relates to AI and stuff like that, intrinsic motivations. Mm-hmm. The sorting of the digits is what we forced it to do. The clustering is an intrinsic motivation. We didn't ask for it. We didn't expect it to happen. We didn't explicitly forbid it, but we didn't know. This is a great definition of the intrinsic motivation of a system. So when people say, "Oh, that's a machine. It only does what you programmed it to do," I as a human have intrinsic motivation. I'm creative and I have intrinsic motivation. Machines don't do that. Even this minimal thing has a minimal kind of intrinsic motivation, which is something that is not forbidden by the algorithm, but isn't prescribed by the algorithm either. And I think that's an important, third thing besides chance and necessity. Something else that's fun about this is when you think about intrinsic motivations, think about a child. If you make him sit in math class all day, you're never going to know what the other intrinsic motivations are that he might be doing, right? Who knows what else he might be interested in. So I wanted to ask this question. I said, if we let off the pressure on the sorting, what would happen? Now, that's hard because if you mess with the algorithm, now it's no longer the same algorithm. So you don't want to do that. So we did something that I think was kind of clever. We allowed repeat digits. So if you allow repeat digits in your array, you can still have all the fives can still be after all the fours and after all the sixes, but you can keep them as clustered as you want. So this thing at the end where they have to get declustered in order for the sorting to happen, we thought maybe we could let off the pressure a little bit. If you do that, all you do is allow some extra repeat digits, the clustering gets bigger. It will cluster as much as you let it. The clustering is what it wants to do. The sorting is what we're forcing it to do. And my only point is, if the bubble sort, which has been gone over and gone over how many times, has these kinds of things that we didn't see coming, what about the AIs, the language model, everything else? Not because they talk, not because they say that they're, have an inner perspective or any of that, but just from the fact that this thing is even the most minimal system surprises with what happens. And I frankly, when I see this, tell me if this doesn't sound like all of our existential story. For the brief time that we're here, the universe is going to grind us into dust eventually. But until then, we get to do some cool stuff that is intrinsically motivating to us, that is neither forbidden by the laws of physics nor determined by the laws of physics, but eventually it kind of comes to an end. So I think that aspect of it, right, that there are spaces, even in algorithms. I think you can get there more easily by synthetic bioengineering in the following sense. Do you feel a lack of X-ray perception? Do you feel blind in the X-ray spectrum or in the ultraviolet? I mean, you don't. You have absolutely no clue that stuff is there. And all of your reality as you see it is shaped by your evolutionary history. It's shaped by the cognitive structure that you have, right? There are tons of stuff going on around us right now of which we are completely oblivious. There's equally all kinds of other stuff which we construct, and this is just modern cognitive science that says that a lot of what we think is going on is a total fabrication constructed by us. So I think this is not I don't think this is a philosophy. I mean, Descartes got there from a philosophical point. That's not the leap I'm asking us to make. I'm saying that depending on your embodiment, depending on your interface, and this is increasingly going to be more relevant as we make first augmented humans that have sensory substitution. You're going to be walking around, your friend's going to be like, oh man, I have this primary perception of the solar weather and the stock market because I got those implants. And what do you see? Well, I see the traffic of the internet through the Trans-Pacific Channel. We're all going to be living in somewhat different worlds. That's the first thing. The second thing is we're going to become better attuned to other beings, whether they be cells, tissues. What's it like to be a cell living in a 20,000 dimensional transcriptional space, okay, to novel beings that have never been here before, that have all kinds of crazy spaces that they live in. And that might be AIs, it might be cyborgs, it might be hybrids, it might be all sorts of things. So this idea that we have a consensus reality here that's independent of some very specifically chosen aspects of our brain and our interaction, we're going to have to give that up no matter what to relate to these other beings. First thing I would ask is, how much should I even be talking to? For sure, because it's not clear to me at all that getting somebody to tell you an answer in the long run is optimal. It's the difference between when you're a kid learning math and having an older sibling that'll just tell you the answers, right? Like sometimes it's just like, come on, just give me the answer. Let's move on with this, cancer protocol and whatever. Like, great. But in the long run, the process of discovering it yourself, how much of that are we willing to give up? And by getting a final answer, how much have we missed of stuff we might have found along the way? Now, I don't know what the the thing is. I don't think it's correct to say don't do that at all. Take the time in all the blind alleys, and like that may not be optimal either. But we don't know what the optimal is. We don't know how much we should be stumbling around versus having somebody tell us the answer.
That's actually a brilliant question to ask AGI then.
I mean, if it's
that's
really,
if it's
really
an
AGI, if it's really an AGI, I'm like, tell me what the balance is. Like, how much should I be talking to you versus stumbling around in the lab and making all my, my own mistakes? It was it 70-30, 10-90? I don't know. So that would be the
and then
first.
The AGI will say you shouldn't be talking to me.
It may well be. It may say, what the hell did you make me for in the first place? You guys are screwed. Like, that's possible.